Look up in the sky. It's a bird. No, it's a plane. No, it's BalloonBoy. Yes, BalloonBoy. But this BalloonBoy isn't a superhero. He's not even a hero. In fact, calling him BalloonBoy might be going far itself, as he never really was a real balloon boy. On October 15, 2009, millions of people turned into their TVs to see cops and state troopers and more chase down a giant balloon that was in the sky. But this wasn't a Chinese balloon, nor did it have tingle. Instead, it had a boy. A little boy named Falcon Heene seemed to take the joyride of his life as the balloon his father had went up in the sky and traveled the state of Colorado. It sent people on a wild goose chase to get this balloon down and save Falcon. Only when they got the balloon down, things were not what they seemed. What came afterward brought much outrage, confusion, and distrust. The Heene family would go through legal trouble and a lot of hate. The crazy part is that this was all for a reality show attempt. This family ruined their lives for a reality TV show. This is the story of the hoax that glued millions of people to their TV. A story for fear of a boy whose life was in danger when it wasn't. This is the story of the lie that made people hate this family. This is the story of the Balloon Boy. But before I begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications as well. The Heene family lives in Fort Collins, Colorado, and were known for their personalities. The family consisted of Richard, Mayumi, Rio, Bradford, and Falcon. Richard Heene was originally from California and was born in 1959. He worked as a handyman and a contractor. This even bled into his favorite hobbies. Despite his high school education, Richard considered himself an amateur scientist. He loved to experiment and liked meteorology. He was also a storm chaser as well. He would film tornadoes and other storms, chasing them down and study them. He had a fascination with UFOs, energy theories, and making his own inventions. He had hopes of being famous on one day, mostly in TV and entertainment. Mayumi was born in Japan and came to the US to pursue a dream and career in entertainment and acting. Both she and Richard met in acting school and connected well. They had the same hobbies in performance, science, and more. She would even help with his projects and appeared in videos. She took care of the house and kids during all their ideas. They got married and had 3 kids. Rio the oldest, Bradford the middle child, and Falcon the baby of the family. The kids were influenced to take an interest in science, acting, and music. Richard and Mayumi even took them out on their storm chasing adventures. The boys had many of the same interests as their parents. They were not camera shy and loved being on camera with their parents. The boys were also homeschooled rather than be in public or private school. To say the family were scammers before the hoax would be a long shot. They did like entertaining people. They wanted to share their lives with other people. Most notably was that they appeared on an episode of Wife Swap. For anyone unaware, Wife Swap was a US adaptation of a UK show. In both shows, 2 families swap lives for 2 weeks. They are usually 2 very different families. For example, one family might love sports, while another loves arts. One family might like to spend money, while another likes to save. One family might have all boys, while another has all girls. During the first week, wives had to live by their family's rules. So the sports mom would have to use arts for a week, and the arts mom would play sports. During the second week, the wives take over and the families have to live by their rules. Both weeks have a lot of drama and such. At the end of the second week, both parents meet up to say what they learned and what the other families should learn. The Heene family not only appeared once, but twice. It made them famous in Fort Collins and they loved it. But they wanted more. Wife Swap wasn't enough. Around this time, reality shows such as 19 Kids Accounting and John and Kate +8 were popular. They got big ratings made money, and made the families famous. The Heenes wanted in. They wanted a reality show. They even had names, such as the Science Detectives and the Heene family. The question was, how? Not every family gets their own show. But on October 15th, 2009, it seems like they would get all the fame they wanted. And all it took was a balloon. For months, the Heene family had been working on a couple projects. One was to get famous. Richard had tried to pitch a show about his family, but to no success. He and the kids seemed to really want to be famous. They also tried making rival videos of the family doing wild things, making music, and more. In the meantime, Richard was working on a passion project. He was constructing a giant balloon in the shape of a UFO. He wanted to make something that would float in the air and powered by helium and electricity, all for low cost. He wanted to see how far it would float without it being manned. The craft was made out of aluminum foil, tape, and plastic, and was about 20 feet wide and 5 feet tall. The kids helped make it and made videos on it. Richard supposedly wanted the balloon to appear in an episode of the show if it ever got made. On the morning of October 15th, Richard and the family were in the yard working on a balloon, getting the last bit done. The moment of liftoff was recorded on video. The family counted down as Richard snapped a cord, holding it down, while Mayumi was supposed to be holding a tether line to keep it from drifting away. But she wasn't holding it. As Richard snapped what held it down, the balloon went up higher and higher. Richard yelled at Mayumi for not holding the line, and the video ends. Brad was the one recording the video with Richard, Mayumi, and Rio being in the video. However, there was no sign of Falcon. The two boys soon told their parents their youngest brother was nowhere to be found. Richard and Mayumi feared the worst, that Falcon climbed into a small compartment under the balloon. Richard alerted the FAA and the media, warning them of the balloon. He hoped the media would use a helicopter to track it down. He then called the police, telling them that his son was in a balloon pleading for help. So the chase was on as cops, the National Guard, and the media tracked it down to not only save the boy, but prevent it from hurting others. The balloon traveled north and east of North Collins, passing a couple counties on the way, going for around 60 miles across Colorado. It got as high as 72,000 feet, even going higher than the mountains. A helicopter followed it as cops and National Guard tried to keep up with it. They needed to get it down without hurting Falcon or anyone else. Shooting it was out of the question for obvious reasons. Because it was traveling fast, they couldn't let Falcon jump into a large trampoline if it was low enough. They had to wait for it to land. As everyone chased it, the national media got involved, showing it on their stations. Millions of people watched in shock as the balloon with a little boy inside it went on a joyride with no intention to stop. For about 2 hours, the balloon was chased as people were glued to their seats. At about 1:35 Mountain Time, the balloon finally landed just miles away from the Denver International Airport. During its time in the air, planes had to turn back or go other ways. While it was originally reported that the airport shut down, this wasn't true. With the balloon finally down, cops and guards ran to see where it landed. They opened the bottom of the balloon to let Falcon out, now that he was safe. Only, it was empty. Falcon wasn't in there. As this was reported, people feared the worst. Falcon had fallen out. It was the worst possible outcome. Some people reported that they think they saw something fall out as the balloon traveled in the air. A search and rescue team was sent out to the area as it was believed he might have fallen out. Of course, Falcon would have fallen out several feet or more. For many, it looked grim. Even if it were close to the ground, a fall on his neck would have been fatal. For the next few hours, a search party looked about the areas he might have fallen at. People at their homes prayed for the best. But around 4 o'clock, it was reported that Falcon was finally found. But he wasn't found dead. He wasn't even injured. Falcon was at home. He was never in the balloon to begin with. It turned out he was hiding in the garage attic in a box. The search was over. Everyone sighed in relief. Some were annoyed this ended up being a false alarm, but everyone was happy Falcon was okay. The party was cut off, and the story was over. But before it all ended, the Heene family would give an interview on everything that happened. That night, many people in the media packed in the Heenes' living room to ask the family questions and their thoughts. Richard would take most of the questions, such as what the balloon was and why he made it. They were all huddled together with Falcon on his dad's lap and the other boys by their mom. It was all going well, but that was about to change. At one point, Wolf Blitzer of CNN would ask Falcon a question. He asked why he didn't come out when his family were calling for him. Why did he hide in the attic? What happened next changed his case completely.
Falcon was really in the garage this whole time. I don't know if Falcon can hear me, but was he, because I know at some point he fell asleep in that garage, but he was hiding out because he thought you were going to punish him for something that happened earlier in the day. Did he hear anything? Did he hear you screaming out, Falcon, Falcon?
He's asking Falcon, did you hear us calling your name at any time? You did?
You did?
Why didn't you come out?
You guys said that we did this for the show. We did this for the show. We did this for the show.
What does he mean? We did this for the show? What show? Richard and Mayumi looked in silence as if he said something wrong. A fart was even heard.
Man.
No.
Millions of people were confused. The interview moved on, and the family asked more questions before it was over. People were happy Falcon was okay. But what did he mean by that? People wouldn't have to wait long for answers. Soon, the truth came out. After the interview, people began asking questions about the whole thing. Falcon was asked again about hiding, which caused him to barf. This was a sign of nervousness. People asked more questions, such as, would a balloon float with a 6-year-old boy in it? Many thought not. Many looked into the Heene family history, remembering that they were on Wife Swap twice and tried out for their own show. A home video of the launch was questioned, many thinking it sounded staged, and the balloons floated too quickly. Just a few days after the stunt, the police said that they think it was a hoax and plan to charge the Heenes. Not long after, they turned themselves in. It said Mayumi admitted it was fake, that they told the boys to lie and knew Falcon wasn't in there. Richard and Mayumi faced charges. Richard would face a Class 4 felony with up to 6 years in prison and as much as $500,000 in fees. Mayumi would get a Class B and up to $750 in fees. She could also be deported. In November, they pleaded guilty. Richard got 3 months in jail, a $36,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, and had to apologize. Mayumi would get 20 days after his was over. The hoax cost about $40,000 for the fake rescue. People were pissed. They couldn't believe they would fake their child's well-being for getting a TV show. They were glad they were punished, though some thought they deserved a worse punishment. So, the BalloonBoy story was over. The couple got punished, and the kids would be made fun of for years. It was time to move on. However, the Heene family would speak out again. In the 2010s, Richard would say they only pleaded guilty because Mayumi might have been deported. He also said it wasn't a hoax. They really believed Falcon was in the balloon, but pleaded guilty when threatened by the police and government. Mayumi had a different story. She said they did plan it. However, Falcon hid in the wrong place. He was supposed to be in the basement, where they would find him, not in the attic. Him being in the wrong place made them think he really was in the balloon. Though she then said the notes this was on were a lie too. Whatever the case, their reputation was ruined. People only saw them as desperate for attention. It's been 16 years now, but the bitterness remains in many. The Heenes have moved on though. In 2020, they were pardoned by Governor Paulus, who said they learned a lesson. The family moved to Florida after the incident. Richard worked as a contractor. He still likes to build things. The boys would form a heavy metal band called the Heene Boys. They still perform today, and some people say they are actually pretty decent. But to most, they will always be known for the balloon. Let's just hope Richard doesn't use ChatGPT for show ideas. It has been years now since the BalloonBoy incident. The family has moved on to new things, and some people have forgotten about them. But for that short time in 2009, the family got what they always wanted. It just wasn't the way they imagined it. It seemed the Heene family would do whatever it took to become famous, even possibly stage a life of a kid. For many, this was too much. The Heenes were added to their bad list. They wanted their 15 minutes of fame. It just goes to show what someone's 15 minutes of fame can do to them. Really though, the family might have dodged a bullet. When it comes to these reality shows, the outcome after it was over was usually bad. The girls on Dance Moms had emotion problems from all the drama. Some of the kids on John and Kate Plus 8 had a bad relationship with their mom and other siblings. As for 19 Kids and Counting, that's a darker story, maybe for another video. Compared to them, the Heenes might have gotten off lightly. While they still do interviews, they mostly live normal lives. The Heenes claim their innocence. Some believe them and want to forgive them. But for others, the BalloonBoy will always be full of hot air.